Something slightly different. I am talking with the lovely Clarice Williams, who is an opera singer based in Estepona. Clarice, how are you?
I'm very good, thank you. Very, very busy getting ready for the summer season and, of course, enjoying the wonderful Spanish weather.
Now, opera singers, I mean, the one thing I've got to ask you right from the very beginning is why opera?
Um, I'm a big believer in I didn't choose opera.
Hmm.
Opera chose, and there's a thing with singers, and it's a very contemporary way of thinking now. Everyone thinks if you can sing anything.
Mm.
Uh, which in my experience as a singer and my experience as a singing teacher, this is not the case. When you have sports people, you don't assume because someone can kick a ball that they can do track and field.
Yeah.
You don't expect them to be able to be cricketers or footballers. It's bodies are machines. Voices are also machines because they're part of our body. So they do different things. And so I'm a big believer in with the opera. I did like it from a very young age, I've got to say. My ear when I was 5 years old, when I was growing up in New Zealand, my ear went straight towards hearing this opera singer on the radio who happened to be Dame Kiri Kitano, who was the big soprano in the 80s and 90s. She sang at Prince Charles's wedding to Princess Diana. And I remember being very impressed and then going out into the garden and making what must have been some terrible sort of noise, but going back in and very proudly telling my mum that I was going to be an opera singer. So my ear, my musical ear was already tuned into that. I did study from a fairly young age. I was 10. And as I was singing different things, I used to sing at school and musicals and little pop bands with the school, contemporary music. My singing teacher said her voice sounds classical. So, there is a difference. And as I got older, I felt in myself as well with the very good training I had with good singing teachers, that her opinion was right. And I really made my debut in opera from 16, which
Wow.
is very early. I sang in Carmen for Canterbury Opera in New Zealand. I was covering all three of the female leads, and I was singing in the chorus, which was an amazing experience. And I've pretty much not looked back. I mean, I've tried different genres. They don't fit. And I pretty much stuck with it. And I was singing at the Sydney Opera House in the extra chorus I was about 23, 24. And I sang there. I'm not giving away my age, but I sang there till the end of 2000. So, it's my thing. I've got to be. And I just love the music as well.
Now, obviously, being an opera singer, you say I've been told your voice is an instrument, and that instrument
Yes.
needs tuning. So you can't
Yes.
just walk out on stage and start singing. You need to do an awful lot of warming up and relaxing of muscles.
Absolutely. I'm still learning. The teachers I work with, even today, they're still learning.
Mm.
The thing about voice is it's a living, breathing entity. So yes, you constantly have to work at it. I had a shoulder injury, an impingement that was quite bad. I ended up with arthritis in my shoulder, affected my voice. I can't explain how much it affected my voice because of the amount of body work that you actually have to do to produce the right sorts of sounds. It also affected my oral skills, my ability to sing in tune, because I had all these imbalances going on in my body.
Wow.
So you have to do a heck of a lot of work. And a lot of things can affect the voice. At the end of the day, the voice is a sound.
Yeah.
It's a sound, it's something, but it's the last step in the chain, really. It's the last link in the chain. And yes, I spend a lot of time. I do Pilates, which is very, very good for singers because it gives the body strength, but it also elongates muscles. Singers have to have very flexible muscles. There's a whole thing to physiology of singing, vocal health, physical health, practice. I can get rusty with my voice if I'm not doing my vocal warm-ups. Like you said, rest is very, very important. Vocal rest is very important because that takes away from your sound when you're on stage. And the thing with opera audiences, they I know you're trying to speak to me. And
I want to ask you something else. Go on.
I know I'm on a roll. So let me just by saying the thing is with opera audiences too, they're a lot less forgiving.
Yeah.
They're a lot less forgiving.
Now, when you walk out on that stage and you're going to perform, you have to put it's not, I know that you're singing something which has been written maybe 100, 200 years ago, but you still have to put that emotion in there as well. It's not just singing, like maybe reading the news or something. You are putting emotion as well in there, aren't you?
Absolutely. It's blood, sweat and tears. If anybody is not, if the performer is not believing and engaged in what they're presenting, how can an audience, and it's not even an audience as a total, I'm talking about audience as a collection of individual people. If I can't engage with that music and engage with that lyric and put something of my own personal experience, identify with it, how can I expect audiences to be moved? And this is where we get this disconnect now with classical and opera, and they're saying it's not reaching audiences. And there's it's because it's now seen as this very elitist thing, going into the Covent Garden, going into the Metropolitan, going into the Bastille, these big, gorgeous opera houses, and they're great. But there's a lot of people out there that might be curious to find out about it. And sometimes it's you get these people in these smaller venues, and you have to be committed. You have to believe in what you're doing. You have to connect with what you're doing, because you can't sell it. It's not possible, because opera is based on sensation. It's how you can create a space within that person to feel something.
Now, I must admit, when I was growing up, I was into rock, pop, blues, jazz, anything but opera. Didn't understand it. Don't speak Italian. Then I met a guy who is an opera singer, and one of the songs he sang was "Bring Him Home," and it made the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. And I just thought, wow, there is something very special in this.
Yeah, it's something, as I said, obviously he was the person that you connected with, or who got you to connect with, because Les Miserables, it's musical theatre, but it's opera musical theatre. Again, it's a different strand of the musical theatre genre. And you do definitely have to have operatic training to be able to sing in things like Les Mis, Phantom, a lot of the Andrew Lloyd Webber music. And you're all, even going back your old Rodgers and Hammerstein and all Showboat and all that sort of stuff, you have to have an operatic training. So he obviously was the perfect example of what I was talking about, where if he's not committed, if he's not connecting with the lyric, if he's not feeling the emotion that's within that music, he can't get you to feel it.
Yeah, that's it.
Is that you can't create these the work we spend on creating the musical overtones and things, and everything we use in the body to get our voices enriched. We can't get you to feel anything unless we do that. You can't create the sound of an opera singer from a mixing table.
No, that's so true.
Yeah, and once you're there, if that person is doing their job, that's how you get that hairs on the back of my, head, hairs on my arm standing up thing, because that's when it's working. That's when the magic's happening. That's what's so important, to keep doing this stuff, because the work drives you forward.
You're also a teacher. You teach opera. How do you assess somebody and think you're going to make it? Yeah, no, not you. Stick to singing rock and roll.
Well, to be honest with you, I teach voice.
Right.
Yeah, so I teach on a much broader level. I teach my singing technique. I teach classical style, which is a style, it's a process of singing that goes back hundreds of years. But I can teach rock singers, jazz singers, pop singers, musical theatre singers, opera singers. So when I have someone come into my studio, I was working in London. I lived there for 12 years. So I had a lot of people, because obviously in London there's a lot of people, a lot of singers, a lot of different types of singers. So the first thing I do is, it might be something quite simple. I just say, sing something. So I just want to hear that it's really a quality to a vocal genre for a voice. So I listen to that tone. And if I hear a particular quality, straight away I can start going, okay, I think this person is more classical. I think this person's a rock singer. I think this person's a jazz singer. And also the good thing about the more old-fashioned style that I teach, which is actually based on hundreds of years of principles of being written down. Why did a person sing this way? How could someone sing in a theatre for 2 hours and be heard in the 2,000 seat theatre and someone else couldn't? When they started sort of writing these things down and analysing them, which has now gone into what's called pedagogy in singing, and that's now being backed up by science. This is how I can draw on these old principles, because it was what I was taught by my teachers, and it's what my teachers learnt from their teachers, and their teachers learnt from their teachers. I have the teacher that I use, who is in Germany. I work with quite a bit. She was one of the biggest opera singers in the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
In Germany and America. I won't say her name, but she teaches voice. And that got me thinking about teaching voice. So the principles she herself uses, and she herself has been taught, and she herself still learns. She has jazz singers, musical theatre singers, and everything about that technique is put straight away into any vocal style.
Okay. Do you have to be with the student, or can you do this online, or how do you work it?
It's a lot of the things that I teach, I do actually need to demonstrate, and I need to actually, I'm fairly hands-on.
Right.
So I need to demonstrate it, and they get a feel of what's going on in the body, and then I will check it.
Yeah.
Because as I said before, the final product is sound. If I'm listening to a singer and I hear something that's not maybe as good as it could be, or I hear something that is not working, straight away I start looking at the body. And I'm like, what is going on in the body that is creating a tension? What is going on in the body that is blocking the flow of the voice? What in the body is separating, say, the high notes from the middle or the low notes from the middle? What's going on? So, yes, initially it has to be in the studio. Once a singer gets to what I call an advanced stage, whether they're professional advanced or advanced amateur, that's when you can go into, okay, let's have a Skype lesson. Let's do a Facebook call.
Okay.
Because I know that they've got the basic right. I'm not dealing with the basic. And that's actually a vocal coach.
Yeah.
Vocal coaches go on the presumption and work on the basis that they have a basic singing technique. They just need a bit of tinkering, a bit of tampering with a few things that have maybe just gotten into a habit with or gotten out of balance with.
Okay, there's something I want to ask you, and I've always wanted to ask somebody who is in your environment, working in your environment. What do you think of Freddie Mercury?
Love him. Love him. Oh, my goodness. The man had operatic training, and he could, I mean, what couldn't the fella sing? He was really an opera singer who sang rock. I mean, his music, obviously his stage persona was very flamboyant. I mean, you couldn't take your eyes off the guy. His costuming, the way but I mean, if you analyze his voice, I mean, the voice was absolute perfection, and you could see that he spent the time on developing his technique so that he could sing what his voice wanted to sing. I was looking at some of his work. Now, he obviously did technically the first classical crossover stuff, and that was with Montserrat Caballé.
Yeah.
I mean, what an awesome combination. Set a precedent in a way, because they did it in probably the most classiest way I can think of. I mean, there's a lot of classical crossover things now where I think, gosh, but I mean, the way they did it was absolutely amazing. And the other classical crossover I love is the Three Tenors, but obviously they were opera singers.
Yeah.
That's Ringo, your Pavarotti, and your Carreras, and they are opera singers. But Freddie Mercury, yeah. I mean, he sets a high bar, but if anybody wants to attain in any vocal style at least a good standard, Freddie Mercury and also Adam Lambert.
Yes, who's taken over, yeah.
Yeah. So they're kind of like my examples. So go the way of them, study like them, work like them. They didn't, as you say yourself, you don't just turn up and sing.
Oh, no, no.
There's hours, weeks, months, years of rehearsal. Even songs that, for example, Freddie might have been singing in the 70s. When he was doing them for a concert, he rehearsed. Michael Jackson did the same thing. Yeah. This is another sort of side to the industry now. I get disappointed when people say, I've never had a singing lesson, or I didn't know what I was going to sing. Of course you did. Nobody just turns up and sings to such a standard that they can progress in a singing competition or a show. It doesn't happen.
No. Do you work with your students, looking, as I said before, looking at where they're going to be in the future, sort of saying, okay, I'm going to guide you into this, and this is the kind of thing that you would be looking at doing?
Yes, I do. To some extent I do, because I personally believe as a teacher, I am also a guide. So I'm laying the best practice singing technique that I've learned and that I know. I'm laying those foundations with them that they can carry through in their, as I said, whether it's a professional singing career or as an amateur. I want them to always sing their best and to know the best practice techniques that they can know. And then if I feel that there is a style that they suit, then I will advise as much as I can on repertoire. I will advise as much as I can on suitable places to perform, because not every place that someone is going to sing with their style is going to be the right venue. You also need to think about your audience. Is the audience going to engage? Are they going to have that interest? There's no point singing opera in, say, a pub. If it's a karaoke pub or, a family pub, it might not be their thing. So same with a jazz singer. A jazz singer is probably better in trying to go to Ronnie Scott's or trying to get into the Jazz Cafe in Camden. It's horses for courses. So I also try to give a little bit of advice about, especially in the social media age, where are they going to market themselves that's going to be beneficial for them as a performer and where they can perform.
Okay. Clarice, if somebody wants to get in touch with you and to find out a little bit more about what you do and how you do it, what's the best way of doing so?
I'm a Facebook girl. So they can catch me on Facebook. I have 2 pages. I have my vocal studio page, which is Find Your Voice Vocal Studio. And then I also have my opera page, which is Clarice Williams Opera Singer.
Right. Okay.
They can PM me or they can message me on the wall, and I'm pretty quick at getting back to people because I do like a chat. So I know I've come across as very shy in a few words today.
Of course, yes.
But there you go.
Okay. Look, Clarice, thank you so much for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you. And hopefully we'll meet in the not too distant future.
Lovely, Lee. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today.
Pleasure. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Before you go,